Queen Cleopatra of Egypt, whose beauty and beauty stories have been told for centuries, are still described with pride. It is said that she used to bath with the milk of different animals, including goats and donkeys. According to the Egyptians, she was the goddess of beauty who appeared on this earth in the form of Cleopatra. The interesting thing is that she very cleverly used her beauty to achieve political success. In addition to being beautiful and beautiful, she was also a picture of disloyalty and shamelessness. It is said that Cleopatra was related to Egypt, but it was not at all. In fact, Cleopatra's ancestors were actually Greeks, and there was a general in the army of Alexander the Great. After conquering Egypt, Alexander the Great settled in Egypt under the name of Alexander the Great. And here he appointed his general, Batlamus, as the general. After the death of Alexander the Great, there was no worthy successor of Alexander. Therefore, all the empires he conquered were divided into his generals, and Egypt became part of Batlamus. And then it started. The Batlamusian rulers of the Batlamusian era in Egypt were very capable and progressive in the beginning. Therefore, they put Alexander in the ranks of the big cities of Europe and Asia. Even though this city was in Egypt, it was a great example of Greek style and architecture. They did rule Egypt, but their lifestyle was Greek. But the later Batlamusian rulers were first-class licentiousness, drunkards and comforters. In this era, Rome was the superpower of the world, and its influence was on all the countries of the world. Therefore, the Batlamusian rulers refused to attack their country by bribing the Roman army and were immersed in their luxuries. According to historians, Cleopatra's father, Batlamus XII, was also under the debt of the Roman Empire at the time of his death. After the death of Batlamus, his eldest daughter and her youngest son, Batlamus XIII, became joint heirs to the throne. Therefore, these two, brother and sister, married each other. Friends, the marriage of a sister to a brother was the custom of ancient Egyptians. In this era, it was not considered a bad thing. The biggest reason for this was to save the inheritance from being divided. Cleopatra had no children in her marriage to her brother. After some time of joint rule, due to some conspiring courtiers, rivalry is begun between Cleopatra and her brother, because of which Cleopatra had to leave Egypt at night and run towards the Syria. In those days, two of Rome's great leaders, Pompey the Great and Julius Caesar, were at war. In this, Pompey the Great was defeated and he came to Egypt from Rome to seek refuge. But Cleopatra's brother, Batlamus XIII, had him killed. In pursuit of his rival, Pompey the Great, Julius Caesar also came to Egypt and stayed in Egypt for a few days. When Cleopatra heard that the ruler of the Roman Empire was present in Egypt, she entered palace secretly with great courage and presented herself in front of Julius Caesar. Julius Caesar, who was an old man, saw Cleopatra's beauty and fell in love with her at first sight and began to speak Cleopatra's language. Seeing this, Cleopatra's brother and her husband fought against Cleopatra, which is called the Siege of Alexandria. In this battle, Cleopatra's brother, Batlamus XIII, was defeated and he drowned while crossing the river water. After the death of Batlamus XIII, Cleopatra became the Queen of Egypt. But according to her family tradition, she had to marry her youngest brother Batlamus, 14, to rule. Friends, this marriage was just a name marriage, because in those days, Cleopatra's real husband was Julius Caesar. Julius Caesar liked Cleopatra so much that to live with Cleopatra, he handed over the entire Roman Empire to his general, Mark Antony, and himself became busy with Cleopatra day and night. Julius Caesar was so crazy about Cleopatra's beauty that he wanted to make her not only the queen of Egypt, but also the queen of the entire Roman Empire. Because of these reasons, Caesar fathered a child with Cleopatra, named Caesarion, as a result of their affair. After living with Cleopatra for about 2 years, Caesar left Rome again. As soon as Caesar left, Cleopatra's younger brother, who was also her husband, started conspiring against Cleopatra with Cleopatra's younger sister. Before they succeeded in their conspiracies, Cleopatra poisoned them both and killed them. Now she was the only member of the Bathymeus family in this world. After a while, in the celebration of Caesar's conquest, Cleopatra left for Rome, where she was welcomed like a queen. But some loyal companions of Pompey the Great killed Caesar. Now Cleopatra had only one way to become the queen of Rome, that her son Caesarion should become the ruler of Rome. For this purpose, Cleopatra sent her most powerful general and Julius Caesar's son-in-law, Mark Antony, into her trap. Some historians say that Mark Antony had 3 children from Cleopatra. Mark Antony became more crazy about Cleopatra than Julius Caesar, and because of Cleopatra's cunning mind, he announced a war against Julius Caesar's son and his brother-in-law, Octavian. In this war, Mark Antony and Cleopatra's joint army defeated by Octavian's army. With this defeat, Mark Antony committed suicide. After this, Cleopatra tried to trap Octavian in her beauty, but Julius Caesar's son, Octavian, had already seen the fate of his father and brother-in-law, so he put Cleopatra in the prison. During this imprisonment, Cleopatra committed suicide at the age of 39. About Cleopatra's death, a lot of things have been said so far. Some say that she had bitten herself with a snake, and some people say that she ate poisonous herbs and committed suicide. But despite all this, it is certain that Cleopatra was not only beautiful, but also clever. If Caesar had not died, she would have taken over the entire Rome in her possession, which was not able to be taken over by the great generals of the world.